Hey everybody, how are you getting on? Sean and Ellie here for WhoCulture. First of all, Ellie, how are you getting on? Are you well?
I am well, despite the fact that I do look like a ghost right now. But you know what? We spent a lot of time trying to fix it, and this is the best we can come up with.
We did. We're still waiting on the Ghostbusters to return our call, but look, that's fine. Until that call comes through, we'll just struggle on. We are gonna fly through a whole bunch of things today because we actually have quite a bit of news came out over the last few days. But first and foremost, the most important thing ever: Millie Gibson's had a haircut, Ellie.
She has had a haircut, and they start filming Doctor Who imminently.
The,
So we may have an idea of what Ruby Sunday's style will be, or they'll put her in a wig and it won't matter.
that would actually be quite funny. The fact that it's made the papers that she's rocking the bob. I think that is hilarious. I do think it's quite funny that we are sat here making a news video about her haircut. And you know what? I'm just I'm just happy to be talking about hair at all. Really.
Your hair's beautiful.
Thank you so much. So is
You're so
yours.
welcome. Oh, thank you.
Oh, yay.
People are going to be
Um,
so confused about what they've just tuned into.
yeah, they're just like I thought this was a Doctor Who video. Do we have anything else that we're going to talk about before we get into the main topic?
Yes, we do. There are a few birthdays. There were a few birthdays in the last week that I feel like we need to just wish upon. Obviously, Verity Lambert, no longer with us, but it was her birthday on the 27th of November. She played a very vital role in Doctor Who, so
Pretty
it
much.
feels
Yeah.
only right to just wish her a happy birthday.
Happy
If you do
birthday.
want to find out a little bit more about her, then you can watch An Adventure in Space and Time. And also, just just this actress. I don't know if you've heard of her, Karen Gillan.
Now, was she in one of those Guardians of the Avengers movies? Was she?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was her birthday on the 28th of November as well.
Good weekend for birthdays.
Yes.
We are, of course, the other big news that is sort of our main topic today is that we're going to discuss basically spin-offs with Doctor Who. So we had the big announcement there that there are going to be spin-off series coming as part of this new Doctor Who universe. And then in tandem with that, all of those spin-off series, or the existing ones, are now available on iPlayer. So I'm delighted for you. This means absolutely nothing to me, but I'm
Yes.
delighted for you.
And do you know what?
Um,
I'm not quite so delighted because I purposely signed up for BritBox just so I could watch the Sarah Jane Adventures. And now that I've watched them all on BritBox, they're now on iPlayer. I could have
well,
saved myself some money.
that is you. I can't really weigh in on that. There, I'm delighted you have access to at least some of it in some way. But yeah, so now available on iPlayer, we've got obviously Doctor Who itself, Sarah Jane Adventures, Torchwood, and Class. Right, so they're
Mm-hmm.
all available. And 99% sure all of Classic Who is on BritBox still, as opposed to I. That that
Yes.
would that was something I probably should have researched. But
Nope. It
um,
is all on BritBox.
BritBox. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Right, so now that those are there and we know new ones are coming, we're going to throw this up to wild speculation. We have a bunch of suggestions and comments from you, the lovely, lovely audience. So thank you so much. We're going to get to those now in a couple of minutes. But Ellie, first of all, how excited are you for the revived K9 series, which is definitely coming?
It's gonna be brilliant. You say that as if there wasn't one already.
So yeah, so what like you're now in the scenario, you're the head of Bad Wolf Studios. What do you make it first? What do you think would be the best? Because I think the announcement said we're looking at villains as opposed to let's say a Rose Tyler spin-off.
Yeah. So this, I mean, we'll take it with a pinch of salt, we must
Hmm.
say. It's not some actual official announcement, but we like to live in the land of speculation, so we'll take any hints that we can and we'll roll with them until proven otherwise. I have mixed views about a villain centric spin off. I It sounds interesting in as much as it's something that's not been done before, but I don't know how much depth you can go into following just the villains without the Doctor being there to kind of as their catalyst.
I think the way Doctor Who is set up, the way it tells its story, is that not that the villains are entirely one-dimensional. Some are, but giving greater backstory, which generally would lead the audience to either empathize with or get a greater understanding of, I think that could be a bit of a double-edged sword. For example, controversial statement, I don't want to know. I don't want to watch a whole series of the Daleks because I think they work so well as a villain out and out. What do the Daleks do? They hate life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I also feel like you're kind of limited to which ones you can use, because if you think about the Daleks, if you think about the Cybermen,
Mm.
they have no expression. They're quite one-dimensional in as much as you can't really, there's not really much emotion you can put in their voices. There's They're tin cans, and so how much drama or how much storyline can you really have from characters that can't express any sorts of emotions or feelings? You can't really go anywhere with that.
You're so right, but you've just reminded me of a scene that is unintentionally hilarious from the second season of Doctor Who. It's the Age of Cybermen episode, and they knock out the emotional inhibitor on one of the Cybermen, and it turns out it's this poor person who's been converted, and it was their wedding the next day. But hearing a Cyberman going, "I'm cold, he can't see me before the
Yeah.
wedding," I'm sorry, it's unintentionally hilarious.
I mean, again, you've got the emotion in what they're saying, but with the voice of a Cyberman, you can't have the intonation or the feeling actually in the delivery of the lines. And I don't know, I think it might end up being quite boring if that was where you're going. Even the Weeping Angels, again, they're statues. You can't, where can you go with that?
Kind of, I know they tried to do with Flux. They tried to kind of turn the Weeping Angels a little bit around in that they were sort of working for Division, but they weren't. I love doing new things with it. I was actually thinking with the Cybermen, what they could do if they were going to do a Cyberman, do something like a Shad, because
Yeah.
you still have but then you have intonation, you have a performance behind it. But I do think it would be difficult unless it's something like a smorgasbord. Episode 1 is the Daleks. Episode 2 is the Cybermen. Like, because we know nothing about these series.
Yeah. I do feel like either way, though, you still need someone to kind of drive that. So if it's not the Doctor, then you kind of still need a character who goes through all those episodes and connects them. Otherwise, you've just got standalone episodes that have no connection other than they are monsters from Doctor Who. But if you don't have, I mean, I guess if you did have a character, then, I mean, right, just gonna put it out there. If you had a character like River Song, right? It's a driving force. It's
Right.
somebody other than the Doctor who can interact with those characters and form some sort of narrative.
Well, basically, actually, to completely agree with you, that's why Sarah Jane and Torchwood worked.
Yeah.
You had these characters. I was obviously you had Jack, but I think more so Gwen on Torchwood, and then of course Sarah Jane and the kids. And that's how it worked. The villains, they were more guests in their stories.
Yeah.
Look, I have so much faith in the writing team behind Bad Wolf Studios. Don't get me wrong. I'm just at the moment, which is probably why they haven't hired me as a writer. I would struggle to see it. I will say that. I'm trying to think. Possibly what you could do is like maybe other like the Silurians,
Yeah.
the Vampires of Venice,
Yeah.
um,
Sontarans.
Sontarans definitely. Although, could that be too much of a good thing? Because they work very well alongside others, like the Paternoster gang. Like Strax works really well with Vastra and Jenny, but a whole series of Strax now that could,
Yeah.
yeah. But again, I say that now. I haven't seen these mythical scripts which exist somewhere. I don't know why I'm talking with my hands so much, but sure,
Yeah.
listen, here
I
we
think
are.
it needs to be monsters and creatures that have some form of facial expression, some sort of human side to them in as much as they can emote.
Yes,
And yeah, think
and
so. I mean, even the silence, again, they don't really, they
they
move, but they have, whoa, and that's
they
about it. To
sorry, could
anyone
you do that?
listening, I just pulled the best face ever.
Okay, you must do that one more time.
Absolutely not. Once
Um,
is enough.
like the silence, obviously, like the fact that the silence were then they became part of they were priests, part of the main frame like that was interesting. It felt like, unfortunately, because we were wrapping up so quickly Stephen Moffat's era at that point, it was like, oh, okay, that was an idea that could be explored. So maybe something like that. The whole papal mainframe, that is
And also,
villainous.
the ending of Class was just starting to open a door about the weeping angels, which then never got continued. So I guess if you're going to go down an avenue like that, so you still have human characters, but the angels are that kind of driving force in that respect, then that could kind of work. That was kind of there was a lot of unanswered questions at the end of Class.
I think that would be, even if it was, give us, let's say, a TV movie or something just to wrap it up, if needs be, or continue it with a different writing team. It's either of these things work. But now we could sit here and theorize all day, which presumably we probably will once we stop recording. But I realize that people watching this probably have things to do. But what we might do now is, so we put out the call yesterday as of recording for people to throw us in ideas, suggestions, what they think might be coming. So Ellie, do you have any examples for us there of people online?
I do. Right. I should have put my glasses on for this. Alex Berrios on YouTube said, I would love to see an animated Doctor Who show where each episode is with a different Doctor and companion. I would make an animated for 3 reasons. 1, it would be easier to cast past Doctors and companions and other characters without having to worry about them looking older and different. 2, it's cheaper than live action. And 3, animation is an underrated art.
I completely agree with the final point there. It is, and I know there has been attempts to do. Well, actually, there has both been attempts to do animated Doctor Who before, and also there's the project of using animation to fill in some of the missing episodes as well. So I mean, there is absolutely precedent for it. So I am totally on board with that idea.
In the same respect, if you kind of think, oh, will it work with that kind of franchise? I'm just going to go into your other love for a second. But if you look at Star Trek and the work on things like Lower Decks, it works. And you don't necessarily have to make it aimed at children.
Absolutely. Prodigy as well, which is both for younger and older audiences, and it's also obviously a different style of animation. I say this as I'm not an animator myself. I don't know the cost. I don't think it's massively cheap, but no, they are right. It is cheaper than doing live action. Also you can get an actor for 2 days to record an entire series, as opposed to so that's it. So we have another one now that I thought was quite good. Is from Chris Trecken on Twitter. If the Daleks were to get their own Focus series, because obviously I think most of our minds we saw villains, the first people we thought of were the Daleks, or creatures as opposed to people. Have Davros be the main character.
Yeah,
that would be something
could work. Yeah, that's definitely, again, someone who can show emotion, someone who can be a driving force.
Exactly. Yeah. So a driving force, again, a kind of a viewpoint character, really. And I wonder, it'd be wonderful to get Julian Bleach back, who played a terrifying Davros. Yeah.
So I've also got here, I think, kind of going off from what we were just saying, Mr. Robert C. Young on Instagram said, in my opinion, using villains as a spin-off is not a good idea, especially when the Doctor is such a big part of their story. Would love to know how you could do it without the Doctor.
Like, that's it. Like, one of the things I both liked and struggled with Torchwood was the lack of Doctor. And they address it. They do deal with it. Whereas we had the Doctor, 2 Doctors appeared in Sarah Jane Adventures. Which again, but I think Torchwood made it work. But then you had so many, characters who you were invested in their stories as well. I did love one of the most chilling lines of all of any Doctor Who franchise to me was I think it's the opening of one of the final episodes of Children of Earth, and Gwen is talking about, sometimes I think about that Doctor friend of Jack's. And what about the times he doesn't save us? And I'm like, oh, that's chilling.
But I kind of like that. That's what Torchwood is. It's like those times where even the Doctor is not able to be there. Because as we've seen from Torchwood and the Sarah Jane Adventures, things happen when he's not there. What would happen if they weren't there either? Like, if you didn't have Unit, if you didn't have Torchwood, if Sarah Jane wasn't there with her children friends to stop the Slitheen,
or the Bane or anything. Well, actually, I'll tell you what, that's good because Alex J. Harmon on Twitter says, I'd like to see Luke Smith doing what his mom did, solving alien mysteries and helping to protect all life, but at the same time consulting for UNIT on the side, plus making a difference to the world. One episode would see him help the cast of Class after that last cliffhanger. So basically, Alex J. Harmon wants everything together in the one series, which I'm totally here for. And what I'd really, really like is to see, in universe, that beautiful tribute video they did during lockdown for Elizabeth Sladen. I'd love to see something like that address the fact that Sarah Jane has passed away. Both, obviously Elizabeth Sladen has passed away, and have Sarah Jane pass away in universe as well. I'd love to see things like that addressed.
I think as well, maybe now would be a good time to see, Rani, Clyde, Luke back. I think you needed to wait a little bit of time because it's not really believable that these kids would be able to solve things without Sarah Jane as their leader. But now that quite a lot of time has passed and these kids are no longer kids, now it would be more believable to see them kind of in a spin-off continuing Sarah Jane's legacy as adults. I feel like if they'd have just been kids carrying it on, it's a bit like, okay, I know this is fiction and I know there's no such thing as Slitheen, but it's even less believable that these school kids are solving these mysteries without Sarah Jane there to hold their hands.
The Slitheen that we saw in World War III in Aliens of London probably could have been beaten by kids. I'm just saying.
Yeah, to be fair. But I just want what you were just saying about kind of Luke Smith kind of going and helping the Class gang and things like that is an idea that I had before. And so obviously this is me. We can't not talk about this, right?
This was inevitable.
Tara Michelle on Twitter agrees with me here, saying if we don't get a River Song spin-off, we will protest. I know that for me, I don't care how they do it, I just want it done.
Sure.
But there are so many ways that River could be incorporated into lots of different stories. I mean, I think you were just saying about kind of combining everything into one, but I think River is the kind of character who actually could make that a possibility.
Sure.
She could join Torchwood together, and you could have an episode with her with the Torchwood gang. You could have an episode where she goes and ties up those loose ends left at the end of Class. You could have her helping the Paternoster gang or helping like Clyde and Rani and Luke on something that they're struggling with. And I think actually she is a character who could have a spin-off of her own and incorporate all those other ideas that everyone's thinking, can they work on their own? But would they work as individual episodes?
So nearly she would be the thread connecting everyone together, but then you still have, here's, a new episode of the Sarah Jane Adventures. Here's a new episode of, or what would then presumably be called, the Companion Adventures. And I think you're right. I think River is the obvious candidate for that to work.
Yeah, I mean, the Diaries of River Song, the Big Finish audio work. I mean, Big Finish in general has proved that it can be done, that spin-offs are popular, that people want them, and they are doable. Obviously, as we've said, it's a lot easier to do audio and animation than it is to kind of budget-wise and availability-wise and things like that. But I do feel like with River as well, you then can have past Doctors, past companions. Sure. Literally everybody makes sense to cross paths with River. I think if they don't do that, they're really missing a trick here. It is the most obvious choice.
I personally think so. Yes, I do. And not just because, obviously whoever's watching this, you can't see this now either, but Ellie does have like the security goes to my house, and kind of like I do have to throw my sport ones. But no, you're right. You're right. We do have one last comment from Mr. Ross Megan on Twitter. So I think The Silence would make a good miniseries. It's a shame that we never got to see more of how that movement came together. Plus, the actual Silence monsters were a super concept and quite creepy. And that's something that, again, ties in with River.
Yeah, you could have a whole episode about them raising young Melody Pond. Yeah. That's a spin-off in itself. A spin-off about the whole bringing up of Melody Pond as an assassin and Madame Cavari and everything that kind of filtered into that. It needs to be done.
I think so. I think there's a lot of ideas out there, and there's so many directions in which this can go. You could go now. They did say as well. They mentioned multiple spin-offs, so you never know. We could get all of the above. So we could be having a Doctor Donna series. So who knows? Who knows?
The
Well,
Meta Crisis and Rose.
yeah, we could get that too.
I
We
feel
could.
like that would end up being a bit more like a soap opera.
I mean, I do enjoy an soap opera, but yes, I think you're right. Now, what we really want to know as well is that we want to know, what do you think? So let us know in the comments below. Make sure that you let us know over on social media. And, obviously, we will continue to bring you news as it comes out. Ellie, how do people get in touch with us?
You can find us on Twitter and Instagram. Just search WhoCulture and you will find us there. You can find me personally on Twitter at @elittle_child and on Instagram, ellie.littlechild. Look, I looked at them before we recorded.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, you'll get me at Sean Ferrick on Twitter, and you'll get me at Sean.Ferrick88 on Instagram. I now have a hive at Sean Ferrick. There's nothing on it, but I'm there. So yeah, follow us over there. I presume we'll be there as well. Folks, thank you. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, podcast wise, obviously you can find us on YouTube as well, but this will now be going out as a podcast. So on all of the various places that you get your podcasts. So iTunes and Spotify and anywhere else you might fall across a podcast.
All your best podcast catchers.
Yep, and we will be doing these weekly now, so keep an eye out for when we put out messages for your input, and then you can be in with a chance of your comment being read out in a future podcast.
And the best way for you to do that is by clicking subscribe.
Yes, it is.
Everyone, you look after yourselves till we talk to you again. We will be back very, very soon, and you're all awesome. So make sure you keep things wibbly wobbly.